Okay, so I'm going to be the guy getting in your face, and you show Canada what you would have done.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Jagmeet, you corrupt bastard! You're corrupt! I'll vote for you! I'll vote for you!
This has just gone on for too long. It's gone too far, and the two-tier justice system is unbelievable. No wonder why so many people across the West have such little faith in their governments right now. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. We got a lot of stuff to get through today. We got some new taxes coming in 2025, some of which, by the way, were not even passed in the House, but somehow are still being applied. We are also going to touch on what happened in New Orleans. It's been all over the news lately. Absolutely tragic and very scary. And there is something that took place almost immediately afterwards that nobody's talking about for some reason. And I wonder why they aren't talking about it. It does have some correlations to things taking place here in Canada as well. So that's going to be very juicy.
New year, more federal tax hikes from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2025. Payroll taxes up, carbon taxes up, alcohol taxes, you guessed it, also going up. So the payroll taxes in 2025 will increase by up to $403. So let's say you're a worker making $81,200 or more next year. Well, your total payroll tax bill in 2025 will be about $5,500. Your employer will also have to fork up $5,900. So Trudeau taking more money out of your pocket again in 2025.
And people wonder why the average wage has not kept up even remotely close to inflation and all of these things, and why people, you're still making the same amount of money for a job that you would have been making 15, 20 years ago in some cases. I wonder why that is. And with the alcohol sales tax increasing, which is something that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau put into effect quite a while ago, where it doesn't actually need to pass anything in the House either. This tax will just keep on increasing annually. That's the way that it works, unfortunately. Kind of makes you think, the whole GST thing. Oh, we're going to tax you less. We're going to take away the GST on alcohol sales until the new year when everything is going up again.
Carbon tax also going up. Trudeau is yet again cranking up his favorite tax on April 1 of 2025. On April 1, the carbon tax will cost about 21 cents per liter of gasoline.
And that's not including the other federal taxes on gasoline and provincial taxes on gasoline. Where I live, if I'm not mistaken, it may have gone up and I missed it, but where I live, there's also a 16% tax from the province on your gasoline as well.
25 cents per liter of diesel and 18 cents per cubic meter of natural gas. And before the government starts shrieking, what about the rebates? What about the rebates? Well, the parliamentary budget officer, the government's own independent budget watchdog, has once again shown that the carbon tax is costing average families hundreds of dollars more than they get back in rebates.
And it's also not doing anything to our environment whatsoever. They're quite literally just punishing you for heating your home in the wintertime and being alive.
In fact, the carbon tax will cost the average family up to $477 more in 2025 than they get back in rebates. And some more bad news, the government also charges its sales tax on top of the carbon tax. So this carbon tax on tax will cost Canadians about $500 million next year, and the government doesn't even pretend to rebate that carbon tax on tax money back to you. So you might remember Trudeau brought in a capital gains tax hike through budget 2024. Well, that is going after doctors, entrepreneurs, Canadians outside of government who are saving for the retirement.
I posted a video a couple days back on social media platforms. I don't think I posted it on YouTube, but where I had said that most people, the average Canadian, is giving upwards of 50% of their income to the government. And I had so many uneducated people arguing me saying, whoa, you have to be making over $1 million a year for that to be the case. And it's like, no. No, you don't, actually. Most people, the average across the country is roughly 43% of your paycheck goes directly to the government with all of the contributions that you make. And then on top of that, the thing that people fail to realize is there's other taxes. You have GST, PST, HST, carbon tax, all of these other taxes that are passed on to these big corporations or passed on to small businesses, whatever, who those people also they make the consumer pay for it. They get offset onto the consumer. And if you think that you make any purchase whatsoever, anything that doesn't have a portion of it going back to the government in some way, shape, or form, you are overwhelmingly mistaken. And there were so many people who were like, that's not true. That's not true. It's like, really, go look into it, buddy. Please go look into it because, yeah, we pay so much to the government. Every single purchase you make, every single dollar you earn, some of it goes back to the government. And for what? Do we have a thriving hospital situation? Do we have, a thriving security situation? What in our country is thriving as a result of all of these taxes, outside, of course, of the net worths of all of our leaders who have just skyrocketed. Crazy how Jagmeet Singh, as an example, his taxpayer-funded salary working with the NDP is around $250,000 per year, yet his net worth has grown over $10 million. How did that happen? Can somebody just make that make sense to me, please? That would be great.
We're investigating a deadly car ramming incident. At least 10 people have been killed and more than 30 others injured after a driver rammed a pickup truck into a crowd during New Year's celebrations. The driver then got out of the vehicle and started firing a weapon. New Orleans police chief says the suspect was hell-bent on creating carnage and damage.
What happened after this event will absolutely shock you, and boy oh boy is it ever an excellent moment to reflect on what is happening and what has been allowed, that two-tiered policing system that our governments have encouraged by not holding anybody accountable, by having no consequences for what they have been doing. So here's what we know first and foremost. So this took place on New Year's Day in New Orleans. FBI has said that this man acted alone. They say that it is an act of terrorism. A total of 14 people are no longer with us. Dozens others have been injured. And the man who ended up also being killed in a shootout of sorts involving police after the attack, he was actually an Army veteran from Texas, and he had an ISIS flag in his vehicle. There was actually a number of videos that this man had shared prior to this attack where he said that he had joined the ISIS terror group. So to say that this was a lone man type of event, I think is pretty irrational. That's an irrational conclusion to make. Clearly, this is somebody who was radicalized. Clearly, this is somebody who was either, maybe he was acting alone, but there was an intent with that act of it being alone, either that intent being to prove himself to the cause, or perhaps there had been people from the cause encouraging him to do this. And we've seen this a lot over the last decade or so, of more people who are Canadian born, American born, UK born, who are being radicalized by these groups. And it leaves you wondering, how is this happening? Why is this happening? This is crazy. We live in 2025 now. How can groups like this still go and radicalize people who are not even from the region that these issues are taking place in? How does that happen? Well, all you have to do is take a look at what has been allowed to happen on our own streets right now. Yep, not even 12 hours after this event took place, you had protesters, pro-Palestine protesters, just the peaceful pro-Palestinians out there who were chanting on the streets, Antifada, revolution, calling for a global Antifada. And there's a lot of history here. There is. Let's start off first with this word, Antifada. What exactly does that mean? Well, let me refresh your memory. It means an uprising or a shaking off. And it has been used mostly to describe periods of intense Palestinian protests against Israel, almost always in the form of violent terrorism. So you had all of these protesters for Palestine coming up on the streets 12 hours after this vehicle incident happened. and they were chanting for a global intifada, revolution. There are other clips as well of pro-Palestinians during these events who were saying that they were really happy about what took place in New Orleans. They were really happy about that. These are people who are living in our countries. These are people who were brought in as refugees and in some cases granted permanent citizenship, saying that they're happy that this happened to our country. They're happy that all of those people are no longer with us. Why are they happy about that? Well, because they've been indoctrinated. And if you think for 1 second that what is happening in regards to Hamas, Hezbollah, and ISIS isn't all connected, you are mistaken.
I support Hamas.
This video right here isn't directly related to what took place in New Orleans, but this is of a Canadian woman who is telling the world exactly what she thinks and facing no consequences whatsoever.
I support every decision. And you know what? What they did was history. Very proud. History was made that day. Palestinian. Shout out to Hamas.
Iran is actually considered the foremost state sponsor of terrorism, providing a range of support, including financial training and equipment to terrorist groups around the world, particularly Hezbollah. That is something that came out of the United States State Department. And you know what's interesting about this too, is when Donald Trump was in power, he knew all of this, and he had canceled a lot of funding that went in any way, shape, or form to Iran for these very reasons. And you know what? Now that I think about it, when Donald Trump was in power, we didn't have anything like this happening because the Iranian government was running out of money by all accounts. And then all of a sudden, Kamala, Biden, they get in. We have Trudeau, and they're doing things that are giving Iran money. And then we have these massive things taking place all over the world. And Iran has been pretty clear that they have been exporting their revolution abroad. And if you take a look at our streets, you will see, yep, they sure have. And here's the part that people really need to realize, because the correlation is there. The lines are there. They're actually quite easy to draw when you know this information. Iran is behind so many of these organizations. Iran is behind Hezbollah, Hamas. They've funded ISIS. All of these groups, all of the groups where all of this stuff happens is funded by Iran. And so look at how easily Hamas and Hezbollah were able to completely indoctrinate our Canadian-born youth here. Look at the size of these protests. And even in terms of where a lot of our immigration comes from, a lot of our refugees come from, many of them come from places that have been completely war-torn by this, places where there is these radical ideologies and massive indoctrination of their population. And when they come to Canada, it's not like they're given all of the tools needed to break out of that, this systemic thought process that they've been born with, that they were taught in school. They don't have anything at all to break them out of that. They're given some money and said, okay, good luck. Hopefully you vote for us. That's what they're given. And so, I think it would be a really different conversation, because I'm not in any way, shape, or form opposed to immigration. I am at the numbers that we currently have because it's not sustainable, but I'm not opposed to immigration from people who come from countries where this is predominant. I am, however, opposed to that immigration if there is zero attempt whatsoever to have them assimilate and to get them the help that they need mentally as well for dealing with and seeing the things that they have.
It shows all the documented terror attacks since 9/11, and one thing really stands out. There is one solitary country in the heart of Europe with not a single red dot, not one terror attack in the last 20 odd years, and that country is Poland, my homeland.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you're asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none, not even one, will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
Juncker, the Commission president, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care. I care about my family and about my country.
The cultural melting pot doesn't work. It just doesn't. Can we have people from all over the world here? Absolutely we can. However, you can't have people with radical opposition to what your nation was founded upon. Otherwise, you are going to have big, big problems. And you cannot allow, when problems like that start making themselves known, aka the pro-Palestine protests and marches that we've seen all over our country, you cannot allow things like that to happen.
On security. About a week ago, Justin Trudeau admitted that he broke our immigration system. And that brings new challenges. His own published documents show there are 4.9 million people here temporarily that are supposed to leave by December 31st of next year, 13 months from now. 4.9 million people. We asked what the plan was to track their departures, and yesterday his immigration minister said, we're just going to take people at their word. He admits that there have been 2 ISIS terrorists allowed into our country. What is the plan to protect our security and reinstate sovereignty over who is in our country?